Hi everyone, welcome back to 7 by 7, the Tribal Habits video blog tackling the big issues in the learning and development space. David King is back today, as he always is. How are you, Dave?
I'm great, Jordan. How are you doing today?
Yeah, really well, mate. Today we're going to talk about compliance training and specifically online compliance training. Now, there's a lot of reasons that an organisation would shift to online compliance training, but I think we'll deal with that in a different video.
Yep.
Today, let's go on the assumption that someone has decided to do online compliance training. And I want to talk through the steps that they can take to implement their training and make sure it's successful within their organization. How does that sound?
Yep, that sounds pretty good. And you know, compliance training is never the funnest training topic, so we can definitely take some steps here to help it out.
Absolutely. So let's get into it. What's your first tip for a successful implementation?
Yeah, well, let's get back to that point. Well, compliance training, no matter what, is never going to be the funnest training. And I think we need to apply some best practices that you really should apply to any training, which is before you start any training, we're going to prepare the organization and the employees. Because you may get some pushback. Why do we need to be doing this? I got 1,000 other things to do. This can wait till later, or all the usual excuses. So the problem with compliance training is that the benefits are often for the organization, not the individual. So with normal training, the individual can see some benefits for themselves, and that can help kind of bring them on the journey or get them excited. In this case, they feel like they're just doing this to tick a box, or they're just doing it for the organization because they don't see or understand the benefits. So I think a great thing when you're starting out with compliance training is to take some time to sell the sizzle. You know, you've got to bring people on the journey, explain to them why it's a benefit to them in the organization, explain how it's going to happen, you know, manage the expectations, make people feel empowered to take time on it. You know, kind of make sure you've kind of got that all laid out before you go any further.
Excellent. So let's assume we've got everyone on board. What are the sort of things people can look to do from day one to make sure it goes smoothly?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I like the way you phrase that. Day one, don't enroll anyone in compliance training. We still have more preparation work to do. So we're going to sit down and think about, okay, how do we want to roll this out? What due dates, reminders, notification periods do we want? How long are we going to give people to do it? We don't want to exclude managers from the process. So we're going to be thinking about what's the role of the manager in this, or the supervisor, in making sure people get stuff done. So there's another planning kind of element, even once we've got the platform ready, just setting up the topics and getting all your automations ready and briefing managers on what's going to happen, all of that. Again, it's more prep work to get those things right. And it's funny how often I see organizations skip that and just bam, straight into the training without really too much thought up front.
Yeah, I think that comes into the next question as well, which is around how do we roll this out to employees? What's that first contact with them like? Do we want to go kind of full court press? We've got this new system and we're using it and you guys are on board, or is it better to kind of ease them into it and drip feed them through?
Yeah, I like the easing thing. I guess I often talk about cognitive load with training, and you know, there's nothing more depressing, I think, to log into your brand new learning systems, do your compliance training, and there's 15 modules waiting for you. Yeah. That's just like, oh man, you know, you're not going to pay attention. You're just going to rush. You're going to resentment. So yeah, I would ease people into it. I'd be grouping my compliance together. I like grouping in 3 ways: values, policy, behaviors, or values, regulation, behaviors. So in other words, these are the compliance training courses to do with our organizational values around equal opportunity and discrimination and harassment, those sort of things.
Yeah.
Then we have the policies, regulation stuff, which may be around anti-money laundering or privacy law or consumer competition law. And then we have behaviors. So then we've got maybe things like health and safety, duty of care, injury management, that sort of thing. Yeah. So if you kind of group it into that, then you can kind of bundle into smaller things and get employees doing something maybe every 3 months, a small group of topics every 3 months, then a big group of topic every 12 months.
Okay. And how about sort of getting off to a quick start? I guess if I've gone out and got myself an online compliance solution, I want to kind of report back to the organization that I'm working to that things are moving and I'm doing stuff and that their investment has been a good idea.
Yeah, because so far I've just been saying don't do anything. So I didn't get the question. Okay, so yeah, we spent a long time sharpening the saw, getting kind of ready, sharpening the axe. Okay, we want to go. Well, the first thing I'd recommend is to use some ready-made content. I still find it amazing how many organizations want to write their own compliance training, which is a pretty big ask. It's a lot of work, and there's really no need. You are reinventing the wheel. If we need to teach someone about anti-bullying and anti-harassment, the rules and regulations are the same for every organization, so we can actually use the same material for pretty much every organization. Ideally, though, what you want, I think, is ready-made training that's in your branding. And I think that just helps send a message. So it looks like you've created it and you've put your organization's brand to it, which I think sends the message that the organization is taking this seriously, is taking ownership of it. I think when the organization presents externally branded compliance training, there's a little bit of tick the box feeling to it. Yeah. When it's in your branding, I think it does send a different level of engagement or commitment from the organization to do that. So if you can get professionally designed compliance training in your branding out of the box, then that's where you have your big time saver and you've spent your time then on the prep work.
Great. And how about kind of the next step? I guess once we've got that ready-made stuff in place, it's about making it more personal and more relevant to the organization. What's a good way to get started there?
Yeah, I like this concept of bundling, if we keep going with that. So let's just stay with the anti-harassment, anti-bullying topic. So if your organization has a policy around that, which I hope it does, then rather than write your whole own training course, take the ready-made course that's off the shelf in your branding and just add to it like a final bit, which goes through your policy. So in other words, they go through the ready-made training where they learn the regulations, they do examples, they do scenarios, they get quizzed, they have to pass an assessment, they get the gist of it, and they've proven they know the knowledge. Now they review your policy, which is how your organization applies the things that they've just learned. And in that little module or that little addendum, you might just tack in 4 or 5 questions around very specific things in your organization that might be different to or extra to standards, or things where you've had problems with that in the past and you just want to make sure you're on top of it now with all future employees. So the time you spend creating is just like a wrapper, an add-on to the end of the ready-made training. And of course, it's handy if that all looks like it came from the same tool and has all the same branding, because then it's a very seamless experience for the learner.
Yeah, excellent. And then as we move into the future, I guess we've now got a platform that has compliance training in it. People are familiar with it. What's the next step in the evolution of keeping it engaging and keeping it relevant?
Yeah, we can probably go through a couple here to wrap up. I think in that version 1, I think I went through, values, behaviors, and policies. And there we're just starting with enough modules to get everyone going. And they're probably non-role specific modules. They're probably compliance training that applies to every role. So everyone has to do training on anti-discrimination or equal opportunity. In round 2, once you've got that first stuff going, you've got some wins, people have got some stuff done, you've learned how to put your policies in, now you add the role-specific training. So now you might say, okay, now it's time to be rolling out specific modules for managers, or we need to get our warden training done, or we're going to do our anti-money laundering for the people in the finance team. And so in that round 2, we get a bit more role-specific by adding in new modules to suit certain roles just for certain people, whereas in round 1, we were really doing it for everybody because it's on the common hygiene stuff.
Yeah. Cool. So I think that's 6 points. Is there a 7th point you'd like to leave us with?
Yeah. Well, if we think about your point of how do we keep going, I think ultimately what we're looking for is a continuous approach to compliance.
Yeah.
So perhaps my number one criticism of compliance in a lot of organizations is that it's an event. It's a once a year event. And we've all been in that organization where on, 15th of June, you can look up and down and look around in the open plan environment and everyone's doing their compliance training in a rush to get it done. Yeah? They didn't do anything until June 15 and then it's all done by June 30 and nothing happens till next June 15. Mm-hmm. That's not good on a whole bunch of levels. So if we can break the compliance up so they're doing it every 3 months, that's a good start. But compliance is more than that. Compliance is more than just providing knowledge on how to be compliant. Another layer would be sharing success stories on where people being compliant has helped them or helping the organization. So having people speak at team meetings about it or sharing it in internal newsletters. And then also just finding other ways to distribute ongoing compliance information, to keep nudging people in the right direction for compliance. So it's a common thing that's discussed. It kind of comes up more often than just that 2-week, let's get it all done and tick the box thing.
Excellent. Well, that's our 7 points for today. I would advise anyone who's looking at implementing online compliance training to head over to tribalhabits.com. There's a heap of information over there. We've got ready-made compliance libraries, guidebooks, and case studies that show how some of our clients have navigated this field. So thanks again for your time, Dave. I'll leave you with one last question, which is, do you think we've made compliance training more fun now?
I think we have, because the compliance training at Tribal Habits doesn't look like a slideshow of next and back button. It looks like a modern website, and you're reading through it and you're engaging with things. So I think we have, and I think we've had a good discussion today about it as well. Excellent. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Dave, and to everyone else. We'll see you next time. Bye.